Welcome to the Diversity Report podcast, where we interview innovators and change makers and diverse, wonderful people who are making a difference in this world. I'm Deborah Levine, your podcast host and editor of the American Diversity Report. And with me today is Natasha Copeland. Natasha is an Emmy-award winning journalist with more than 2 decades of experience. She is the news assignment editor for NBC4 in Washington, D.C. She develops plans and fact checks, daily breaking news, community-related news, and major local and national news. She has been the logistical lead for stories that include general elections to live community events. Currently, most news coverage revolves around the COVID-19 pandemic. Welcome, Natasha. Wonderful to see you.
You too. Thank you for having me.
Oh, what a pleasure. My goodness, you have quite a job, don't you, in these difficult times?
Yes, indeed.
Indeed. How did you get involved in this in the first place?
It started in Virginia. I'm from, as we discussed offline earlier, I'm from a little city in Virginia. And back in the day, my grandmother would sit down and watch the 6 o'clock news. If you didn't watch any newscast, you watched the evening 6 p.m. newscast. And she would tune into Jim Kincaid. And oh my, I love this man. Older gentleman, but so wise and so knowledgeable. And it seems that he gave me a view of the entire world. And I couldn't understand it then, how he knew so much about so much all over. But I knew this. I wanted to be just like that. I wanted to be a person who knew a lot about a lot and who could tell people a lot about a lot. And so it started there. And I went on to go to Howard University and had an uncle who attended Howard. And I fell in love with that school and learned that they had a great journalism program and still do. And I went to Howard, graduated, and Howard's in Washington, D.C. So I've been in the news business ever since I graduated, either from internships to assistants, and just went on from one station to the next. And I've been the last almost 2 decades with NBC4 here in Washington, D.C. And so it's been a lot of different types of news coverage, but nothing quite like COVID-19 and living and learning and teaching and just being in this pandemic. It's been different. It's certainly been different, and nothing I ever could have imagined.
I'm sure. What was it like when the pandemic first hit?
It was unbelievable. It was scary. It was pausing. A lot of making sure you're dotting with the darkest color marker your eyes, and with the darkest color marker you're crossing your T's, because it was almost unbelievable what we were reporting, that you could literally die from breathing. It was unimaginable that we had to say that we had to tell anybody that we, because first you have to understand it, or try to understand that I literally can die from taking a breath. And but we're still going to work, and we're not sure at that time if the air we're breathing while we're working is taking us closer to taking that last breath. It was so much uncertainty, and and maneuvering through the process and trying to read as much as we could and learn about all these different types of statistics that were coming from the CDC and the WHO. And really, we learned to connect even more with our local health departments. So we all started getting friendlier and more knowledgeable with our local health departments, saying, hey, who's the contact person? Let's get them on. And it was just a strange process to maneuver through because they used the word stay-at-home order, and I never in my all of my days of living on this earth been under a stay-at-home order, as most people had not. And so we all were looking when the governor of Maryland in our area said was the first to say that there would be a stay-at-home order. And so we all were like at work. I remember the day at work, we were looking, what does that mean? I don't know. What does that? Do we come to work? Are we coming to work tomorrow? Do we drive here to work? Can we come to work? And it, certain professions, of course, were given certain privileges of going to work, and we were um, told that we could go to work at the time. And then it just became a little more dangerous for so many people to be in certain spaces, and we had to reduce the numbers. So a lot of us started working from home, working a job that we never thought we could do from home, trying to make things work. You learn that you're very resilient. You're very creative. You have to be very creative, and you learn to be even more diligent because the information you're sharing is life and death information. You get it. You really got it. I think we all truly got it, that this is life and death information. These are numbers that mean something to people. And we just it still is pretty much in the sci-fi,
Yes.
and not even trying to make light of it, but just like you're working from home, you're educating from home, you're wearing gloves when you go out, you're wearing a mask, and you're not sure if you're taking your clothes off, things that are just strange, and you're hesitant to hold conversations with people um, because you don't know if talking to that person could cause you to be very ill or not be here anymore. So but you still have to survive. So you're still working and understanding that you have to keep moving as long as you
And I understand that there is a personal investment in terms of your work for the community during this time, that COVID-19 has energized you,
can.
not just in terms of your work in the newsroom, but in terms of your work on behalf of people who are in need. Would you like to tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, of course, that is my love language to community and sharing and helping others. That's truly my love language. Um, my husband and I, we started a nonprofit, very humble nonprofit, some years ago, and it's called Brothers and Sisters Keeper Outreach Ministry. And it's a family and friends, brothers and sisters ministry. And we always ask our kids, who are your brothers and who are your sisters? And it comes from the Bible. Everybody's your brother and everybody's your sister. And so if one of us is suffering, it doesn't matter how whose mom, whose dad, whose child that is. That's your brother and your sister. And how can we move forward if one of us is not able to move forward? So we started this nonprofit, and we love it because in the beginning, we would just put our money together and buy turkeys around Christmas time and hams and certain things like that, and coats and toys, and we would go and give them out in the community in Washington, D.C. And then family and friends wanted to help. During that time, my husband was a part of the MPD force. He's retired, almost 30 years on, and police officers were just becoming a part of it, and we would just go. Then we started partnering with schools and holding our events in schools, And then the pandemic has came along,
Yeah.
and we can't be touchy-feely up close and personal. But there's still a group of kids who are used to seeing us, who are used to being a part of our programs and tagging along with us. And we had a summer camp for them, free of charge last year, and a school allowed us to host it in DC. But we couldn't do it this year, so we brought the summer camp to our home. So I would log out of work, and we would go down to our basement, and we turned the basement into a school, a summer camp, and we would Zoom it with them. On the first day, we wanted to have lunch with them, so we sent pizzas to all of their houses. And our kids all participated, and the theme was "You Matter," because again, we were serving at that time, and still kids who are disadvantaged, and they live in communities, and we want them to know that they matter. And we did a lot of learning about history, Black history in particular, because you don't know how you're going to get someplace if you don't know who you are. We wanted them to know about systemic racism. We wanted them to know how they can get involved in their communities. We talked to them about being a part of school boards at school. That, there's a big deal being made out of the general election, presidential election right now, but we wanted them to think about their local elections. You have questions for your city council members? You live in a certain ward. Do you know who your city council member is? Do you know who the school board members are? You have questions. And one of my fun moments was talking to them about Juneteenth. I said, why do you think you don't know about Juneteenth? That's not new. Why is that not in your history book? History isn't a new subject. Why are you thinking this year Juneteenth became something that you all of a sudden started hearing about? Well, we all of the protests, because we of course know that we had two different types of pandemics: the COVID health pandemic and the social injustice and equality pandemic. So we talked to them about Juneteenth, and that's when they really got riled up. And then we kind of stepped back a little bit and let our kids do a lot of the talking and PowerPointing and engaging, and just seeing how they opened up about now wanting to raise their hand and be a part of change.
Yeah.
Talk to them about change being diverse. And we purposely, when we do any outreach, we purposely make sure it's diverse. Because if we're ever going to move forward, it's not going to be one color. And so we always have our friends come alongside of us who don't look like us. But again, there are our brothers and our sisters. That was a Cain and Abel thing in Genesis. Keeper? Yes, I am. I am my brother's keeper, and I am my sister's keeper. And so that's how we came up with it, and that's where we are with that. And we're always just looking to do something different. We tell the kids, our kids, if someone's not better for knowing you, then your living is in vain. Who's better for knowing you today?
So do you think you have encouraged any of these young people to become journalists like you? I bet you have.
I don't know, but I do know that they get encouraged to help in community. I've seen changes in them about being concerned in their communities, and that has made us very happy. We've seen changes with, again, we like to bring uncomfortable situations together sometimes, because you have to, sometimes the only way you'll have relevant, real change is to get uncomfortable. And so a lot of times the communities we serve in, and we say we serve because my husband always reminds us, he said, if coming from a law enforcement perspective, sometimes we enforce the law, but we forget about the serving part. And it was very important to him to do both. And so he would go back and he gets his friends, his law enforcement friends who are willing and able, because sometimes people, that may not be their cup of tea. Or they may be fearful of something that they don't understand and know about, or looks different than what they're used to. And we get people, and I tell you, it's very diverse. There aren't all Black and there aren't all white. It's a mixture. We have literally been in the room where we've had kids tell police officers, don't like you, don't trust you, hate you, and the police officers sat there, listened. We have a Now we have a safe environment, and the police officers would tell them, this is why certain things happen. Sometimes I'm not making excuses. What I'm saying is I'm trying to explain to you, and both people can see it from that perspective, because we don't want them to. The only time they saw police officers was when something negative was happening. We wanted to have exchanges, and the officers enjoyed serving the kids. The kids then started saying, that's my buddy. We heard one of them say, that's my buddy. You went from hating him to that's your buddy? So those are the differences that we really try and make with Brothers and Sisters Keeper. And so I know that we're talking about me being a journalist, but that really and truly community is my love language. I joke about it with my colleagues and my friends all the time. Yep, I am the people's journalist. I am the people's journalist. They say, she's never met a stranger, and I truly haven't. I've never met a stranger.
It sounds as if your work as a journalist is as much a passion and caring for people as your community work.
Yes, more, 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 because I think it's all tied to purpose. And when you find your purpose, you can't help but walk in it and live in it and bring others along and make a difference from it. And I believe that God really put my husband and I together. We have similar purposes. We have a joint purpose, and so we always try to make sure our kids are involved in community. Don't take anything for granted. Don't take anything for granted. Today could be the last day you breathe, and you want to make sure you're making eternal decisions that impact generations, people. Somebody change. Somebody's better because they know you.
It's amazing for people, our readership, to learn about you. I don't think many of them know media people that well. And the media seems to exist as some sort of existential
Yeah.
entity out there. But the humanity of it, the caring, the difficulty in these times, I love what you have to say, and I know that they will appreciate the care that you take, not just in reporting these difficult issues, but in making sure that you are as on point with your fact checking
Mm-hmm.
and balancing of the news, because I know a lot of people don't see that necessarily, and you pretty much are the poster child for it. I love it. It's so wonderful to meet you. Is there anything else you'd like to add to our conversation that we haven't brought up yet?
If I could say anything about truly working in this pandemic and working and living in this pandemic, I think that is certainly the worst thing I've ever seen, and I hope I'll ever see again on a worldwide level. But I've seen the humanity in people on a level that has been amazing. It's truly been amazing to see from the beginning. Remember when people were going out and making masks, just wanting to do something? I think that not that they were selfish people, not that we're selfish, but just that we found that time to stop and think about someone else for a long period of time. How can we help? What can we do to make somebody else's life burden a little easier? Because the real part is we have over 200,000 people who are dead.
We do indeed.
And family members, co-workers, communities are grieving those people and will grieve them for a very long time. I grieve them. I, in the beginning, listening to people call to the television station, emotional, crying, trying to get some kind of information and facts from us that will help them stay alive and keep their families alive. Because none of us knew. Am I going to go in a grocery store to get a meal for my child, to get a meal for my family, and then lose my life? Kids who then started hearing, oh, we're getting it and we're not getting sick, but we're making family members who are older than us sick. I've had these conversations with people and thinking that I've had conversations with children who thought that they would get their family members sick and they would die. So this has been eye-opening on a major level and really helping me to, and I think a lot of people, put things in perspective.
Wow.
I'm majoring in the minor stuff. I love this pastor, T.D. Jakes, and he said this many years ago. He said, we're majoring in the minors and minoring in the major, and we're minoring in the majors. And it really helps you to put things in perspective. I see a lot of the inequalities with and disparities with healthcare and education and things like that, housing that have come to light. I see people passionately pushing forward and trying to make it better. It's been a horrible situation, but I've seen so much good come out of people. The people who are standing beside each other saying, let's stand together and make a change. That has been the most beautiful life from a dead situation. And I just hope that I'm one of those people that people can look to and say that I've made a difference in this. And so, yeah, I'm going to fact check. I'm going to call. I'm going to make sure that to the best of my ability, I'm giving the best information I can out to people every day.
Oh my goodness, you are amazing. I am so delighted to have this opportunity to hear from you, not just what you're doing, but why and how. And I know that others are going to be as inspired as I have felt to go out there and do something, a kindness for people in need, for people who need a voice, who need information. And I'm going to do my best to inspire a few young journalists and have them follow your lead.
Oh,
Absolutely.
well, I count it an honor that you even said those kind words to me.
Uh, and I'm not kidding. I've got plans here.
Okay. Oh, I believe you. I believe you.
So thank you so very much for joining us, being on the Diversity Report podcasts, and thank you to the audience. Know how lucky you are to hear this, and we'll be back with more inspiration soon. Take care. Thanks again.